In the fantasy hockey game, it's not always sunny and flowers. Sometimes it gets a little dirty. And with today's episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, we got to highlight some of these fantasy failures, players that could be impacting your squad's ability to go to the top. Let's break it down. And of course, big time bets. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back inside the lab, everybody, to the Thursday edition of your daily source for fantasy hockey news and betting breakdowns, the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, start the season big with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can bet $5 and get started with $150 in bonus bets if that wager wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. Mr. Roden, fantasy failures. It happens all the time. Oh, by the way, shout out to the everydayers holding us down, making us your first listen every single day. You know, we got to get that one in there. Look, like I said, it's not always lollipops and rainbows in the fantasy game. I think I probably know that more than most in terms of players not living up to the hype. And I think we're taking a look at some players that were definitely high draft picks, high draft targets that are not living up to expectations. Some of them to varying degrees, some of them still on some very good teams. So over to you, my friend. Who are you looking at first? And to be honest, across the board, these players are just not getting it done to the level of expectation that I think most of us had.
Yeah, and thank you so much for leaving the comments on the YouTube channel, giving us this idea, the topic for today's episode, breaking down some of these superstars who are not living up to par or living up to the expectations that were set at the beginning of the season. And number one, who we have to talk about, this player was commented on the channel, Jason Robertson, a guy who, for most of us out there, he was, if you're in a keeper league, he was probably one of your keepers. If you're in a year-to-year league, he was getting drafted somewhere in the third round. His ADP was a 33.5. His preseason rank on Yahoo was 40th. His current ranking, though, is 355th in Yahoo. It has been a dreadful season for Jason Robertson of the Dallas Stars. 4 goals, 7 points in 14 games. 4 of his last 6 games, he's gotten 16 minutes and 45 seconds of average ice time in 4 of those last 6 games for the Dallas Stars. So he has been struggling in the offensive zone and just really, I don't really know what's going on with this top line right now. I know Rupe Hintz has been pretty solid, but Jason Robertson has been struggling tremendously throughout this season early on.
The Dallas Stars only averaged 30 shots on net. That's right there in the middle of pack per game. I think, number one, not to boil it down to something that you and I talk about a lot, I think this entire team really needs to find that confidence and shoot the puck. And look, Wyatt Johnston could be on this list too, Steele. He has been disappointing to start this year. Jason Robertson coming into the season last after 109 points in 82 games. Last year, I think, falls back into the realm of what we can expect of, 80 to 85. 109, I think everyone can kind of agree on, was a little bit of an outlier. But right now, on pace for, he's not even going to scrape 80 points. It's definitely been a disappointment. But what I think holds true and what's most indicative about this team is they're still there hanging around in the Central. And if not for the Winnipeg Jets, they'd probably be in the mix for the top team in the division. And look, they are 5-5-0 in their last 10 games, and I'm not trying to say that they're going back to the Cup. But if they're still lingering around and guys like Robertson and Wyatt Johnston are struggling to the degree they are, I'm not too concerned about the team overall, and that means I'm not jumping ship on RoboCop just yet. And I think we're going to talk about a couple of other players that I'm not going to say you drop, but in some formats, you're going to have your finger on the trigger there much more than Robo, which I think at some point he's going to pick up because the rest of the team is just that good.
Yeah, the team's been solid. And I think that's a reason why his production hasn't been off the charts this year is they're rolling lines. I mean, all 4 lines, especially that top
Good
9,
point.
they were getting after right now. You go down to the second line specifically, Matt Duchene, Tyler Seguin, those guys, Wyatt Johnston, Logan Stankov, and Jamie Benn, they're chipping in. So when that top line's not going, they can rely on the second and the third line to really produce offensively. And I'm with you there. I think if you have Jason Robertson on your team, this is not a guy that you're going to want to trade. Obviously, you're not going to drop him. I mean, maybe you trade him if the price is right. If someone's out there looking for a left winger and you need some help somewhere else in one of those different positions. But for me, I've got Jason Robertson in my keeper league. He's definitely not leaving unless I get something really juicy in a trade offer. So I'm with you, Jason Robertson. If you're having him, hold on to this player. Maybe it is not the same for this next guy on the list. Noah Dobson of the New York Islanders has been struggling overall, just like this Islanders team. Average draft position was 42.6. So typically getting drafted in that early fourth round. His preseason rank was 70th, currently ranked 126th on Yahoo. So it's not a terrible drop off, but 6 assists, 0 goals in 16 games this season. To me, the offensive production is not there. The peripheral categories have been fantastic. 51 shots, 33 blocks, 14 hits. He's still getting above 25 minutes of average ice time right now. It's just, I mean, this is a team that doesn't score a lot of goals. So if their forward group isn't producing, how do we expect Noah Dobson to really get after it as well? And that's been the factor this year is they continue to struggle offensively. Matt Barzal has been injured, and Noah Dobson is paying the price for that.
I don't put a whole ton of stock into those current rankings, just dependent on the player. But in this case, I think it's actually overrating Dobson. But I think you made a good point about the peripherals. And headed into this draft season, I'm not even going to shy away from the fact I thought Dobson was going to be a complete beast this season. Everything. And again, he's very young, and the rest of his career and keeper dynasty wise, I don't think you can let go of this player. But if you're in deeper formats and there are other blue liners out there, I would be starting to seriously consider letting go of this player. And I can't believe I'm even saying that, because headed into the season, I think I would have slid him right in there into like the top echelon of blue liners that I thought were going to explode. So this one's really kind of frustrating, I'm sure, for a lot of GMs out there. The New York Islanders, though, once again, Steele, don't do much in the offseason offensively. They went out there and got Duclair. He gets hurt. They sit 26th in the NHL so far in goals for. Not going to be nearly good enough. And honestly, before I turn it back over to you or go to break, whatever you want to do, this is how rattling this is. The first power play unit in New York, Oliver Wahlstrom, J.G. Pajot, Anders Lee, and then Dobson and Horvat. Okay, most teams, you'd probably plug and play Horvat and Dobson and put them on the top line. But the rest of those guys, that's just not gonna get it done in the NHL in today's run and gun style. Not even close. So Dobson, for me, by association, RoboCop, different story. I think he will get there, especially because the rest of the team's going to carry him. Dobson, I don't have nearly the same confidence in that group around him.
Yeah, I think his value when it comes to the leagues that we play in, the categorical leagues, he holds a lot more value in those ones because those peripherals. But when you get into fantasy points, when you get into the realm of that situation, Noah Dobson, the value is dwindling down significantly. Yeah. And right now, if you're in one of those leagues, I can't say it any way. It sucks to suck because, like Flip said, I mean, even I was on the same boat about expectations for Dobson and the Islanders this year. And it's just not hitting the way we thought it was. So if you're struggling with Dobson, maybe you start looking for a trade out there. I think this is a player to me personally, I would refrain from dropping. I would go down the route of looking for a trade. And again, trying to
maybe buy low right now, Steele.
Yeah, buy low on Noah Dobson. That's something that you can look forward to with this player. We're going to come back after the break and mention some other players in the Eastern Conference, one forward out in the West as well. And then we'll get to big time bets at the end of the episode.
And we'll tap into a couple more of our mock trade specials. Might have to look at a couple of these players, Steele, that you could include. Maybe you throw a couple of peripheral pieces in and you get them while they're at their lowest. We also definitely have Monday's waiver wire special coming up. Don't miss it. And don't miss the rest of today's episode where we talk about bets and the rest of these struggling players. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $5 bet win and $150 back in bonus bets if that bet cashes. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything that you need all in one place, and the NFL on the same page. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page you place those bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. Get started with that $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 hits. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And today's episode is brought to you by, that's right, Steele, we got more than one. Today's episode is brought to you by SelectQuote, the World Series, Super Bowl, Olympics. The world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing, teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents have the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safe and sound. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl today to get started. That's selectquote.com/lockedonnhl.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. Flip and I appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday. 7 o'clock in the morning is when you can find our episodes. And we're getting after it, of course, today on Thursday. We're going to get to big-time bets like we always do towards the end of this show. Real quickly, though, we got to talk about some more fantasy failures right now. And maybe it doesn't hold the same vein for you, but for me, I got to mention Jake Guentzel right now. And he's not really a fantasy failure per se. He's still getting after it in the offensive zone. He's capitalizing on those opportunities. He's got 13 points in 14 games. He's a +7. He's got 39 shots, 15 blocks, 5 hits. It's all good said and done. I just expected a lot more from this player. And I mean, for me personally, I hold a lot of value in this guy because I've got him in 3 out of 5 of my fantasy leagues this year. And again, you got to take the rankings with a little bit of with a grain of salt. His preseason ranking was at 25. He's currently ranked 215th in our fantasy league right now in our categorical leagues. And to me, when you're drafting a guy who's, his ADP was 36.8, drafted in the late third, early fourth round, when you're drafting a guy that high, and yeah, like I said, the offensive production is there. He's only got 2 power play points on the season. Again, when you're playing with a guy like Nikita Kucherov and Braden Point, I just expect a little bit more. I think he could shoot the puck a lot more. 39 shots for me is not enough for a guy who has that caliber of skill. And then obviously the other peripherals will, that's just a bonus whenever he gets them. But to me, I just expect a little bit more from this player.
Yeah, most definitely. That's fair. I guess also if you were drafting this guy and then going to get at him for the peripherals not being here, I think that would be a mistake because drafting him for those peripherals
obviously
is not where it's at. So to me, this one doesn't make a whole ton of sense except for the fact that you made a great point about expectations. And when you put up the numbers that he put up and then you go into a team like Tampa and get to play with Braden Point and Nikita Kucherov, then yeah, I guess we really were expecting fireworks. But again, and maybe this is just because of how good all of these players are and how high they were taken that most GMs will be so heavily invested that you just can't get away from these players just yet. I'm actually going to buy into Jake Guentzel. I would love to go after him as a buy low target because that line and his offense, it's going to pop at some point sooner than later. And he's already kind of steadily humming along. I think it's 14 points in 17 or 13 points in 14 games. To me, that's okay. I'm with you on the shots. Not going to get at you about it. For me, he wouldn't have hit the list, but with the expectations, I'm fine with it. If you don't mind, one that's not up there on the graphic and one that I mentioned to you quickly. Jonathan Marchessault combined over the last 3 seasons in Vegas, regular season, 100 goals scored. He was a 40-goal man only a season ago. So when you come onto a team, and again, just like Guentzel, it's going to take some time, growing pains, and the top 6 is also good in Nashville. I'm not as sold as I am on Guentzel about Marchessault turning around. I think Guentzel is going to get there. I think he will live up to the expectations. Steal 3 goals for Jonathan Marchessault in 16 games. That's just not nearly good enough. And that is probably crippling some GMs, given how highly rated he was, maybe overrated. But given the season last year, I understand that you would have maybe nabbed him in the 3rd, 4th, or 5th rounds. Maybe 3rd was a bit high, but still, that means you were passing up on some really good players. And it likely means if you even have 1 or 2 other guys that are not living up to the hype, he's minus 10. The peripherals are not there. That's not what he really does. Although last year, 107 hits, pretty solid. To me, this one screams fantasy failure. 3 goals ain't cutting it. And I know the Nashville Predators are starting to figure it out. I am giving Jonathan Marchessault 1 more week, maybe 1.5 weeks. And if he's on my team, I'm starting to seriously consider swapping him for another body.
Has to make the list. Jonathan Marchessault alongside Steven Stamkos and the rest of this Nashville team. Utter disappointment so far this season. Real quick, one last player before we get to big time bets.
Yes, sir.
Mika Zibanejad. For me, honestly, maybe wouldn't have made this list before that Winnipeg Jets game, but after that performance from one of their
from Winnipeg.
Oh my God, what a beautiful goal from Gabriel Velarde. Connor Hellebuck on par right there. Waiver wire, you got to pick him up. But back to Mika Zibanejad. I mean, he looked awful in this game. And I don't know if you watch the game out there, Jets versus Rangers, he made costly mistakes on 3 of those goals allowed for the Winnipeg Jets. So to me, Mika Zibanejad, 2 goals on the season, 11 points total. Again, a guy drafted typically in that 3rd round, ADP of 34. His preseason rank was 95th. His current rank, 324th. Like I said, 2 goals, 11 points on the season, not shooting the puck enough. 2 blocks, 8 hits. His shooting percentage is down to 6.9%. He's -6 on the season. He has 1.5 minutes. He's 1.5 minutes down of average ice time from the year prior. To me, the guy just seems to lack confidence with his game. He's showing a lot of hesitation. He's showing a lot of different a lot of hesitation when he has the puck on his stick, whether he's trying to make a play or his shot choices in the offensive zone. To me, that's creeping a lot more this season than I've seen ever before from Zibanejad. And again, a guy who was a keeper for me in my keeper league is just not doing good enough.
It's interesting with this New York Rangers team, somewhat in line with the Dallas Stars that, and I think maybe that just indicates such a deep, balanced team that they are still getting wins for the most part. Let me highlight 2 things for you. And I'm with you here with this Mika Zibanejad one, because considering how also comfortable he's looked as a New York Ranger in general, I know he's been there since 2016, but over the last couple of years, 29 goals, 39 goals. Last year, a little bit of a dip, 26 goals. I think he's been a little bit banged up and plays through it because he's just a warrior. And I don't mean banged up missing games, because 81 games, 82 games, and 81 games, clearly he's been a warrior. I just think he's one of those players, Steele, that he really does play through injuries because he can still be, effective in the dot and so forth. Let me hit you with this. The New York Rangers, who I think headed into this season, we would have put their, and I think we did, put their blue line group up there amongst the best in the business, especially like defensively. They're allowing only the Ducks, Sharks, and Penguins have allowed more shots on net each game than the Rangers. They're allowing 32 shots on Igor Shesterkin, and if not for how good he's been, we might be talking about this Rangers team in a whole different breath. And when you got Breadman on your wing, and you should just be really a peripheral category kind of picking up points all over the place in Ziba, definitely like that you have him on this list. And it's concerning for me because this Rangers team, given the Washingtons of the world, the Devils on the come up, Canes cooking, I'm still going to say I like the Rangers in that division, but they better pull it together in a hurry, especially after a big statement victory from those Winnipeg Jets. But I like that you're highlighting Zibanejad. And I do remember us having this conversation about you keeping him or not. Obviously, right now, looking like that was a tough decision, although I still agree with it. But, hey, I don't know. I wouldn't let go of him either just yet, but he might be right there with Dobson as the next closest one that I got my finger on.
Yeah, he has to. And again, maybe I'm going to give him a little bit more time than a week and a half than you were talking about with Jonathan Marchessault. But, I mean, again, 31, 32 years old. Maybe the age is starting to creep in with his game. Like you said, maybe battling through injuries on a yearly basis, and that's starting to catch up with him. But been very, very unimpressed with Zibanejad's game so far. We're going to get to big time bets at the end of this episode, like we always do. But first, this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. The goal is very simple. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings pour in all season long. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. You can win 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. William Nylander, 5+ shots. Tom Wilson, 4+ hits. The possibilities are endless. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly when you place that $5 bet. You don't even need to win to receive this bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. We appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning. Before we get to big time bets, shout out real quickly to Oliver Ekman-Larsson playing in his 1,000th game against the Washington Capitals. Also, I don't know if you saw Yanni Hakanpää. He'll be making his
Hakanpää,
baby. He's making his Leafs debut as
Plan
well.
the parade, Steele.
Plan the parade. He's in the lineup. Just had to give a quick shout out to those Leaf players out there. Big time bets. 10 games on the Sketty tonight. Lots of games, lots of intriguing matchups. Over to you, my friend. Where are you looking first?
How many games are on the board? I may have
10 games. 10 games.
10 games on Thursday night. Are we sure about that? Because I guess I might be looking at the wrong board. But anyway,
I believe it's Thursday.
Yeah, I might. Games. I think I'm looking at the complete wrong board. So my picks are probably out the window, but that's okay. So Thursday night. We're looking at Thursday night.
We're looking at Thursday night. What day are you looking at over there?
Thursday, November the 14th has 5 games according to the website I'm looking at. So I hope that this is still accurate. Do we have the Vegas Golden Knights playing the Utah Hockey Club? Let's just be certain about the same schedule.
That is Friday, November 15th.
Okay, then this Odd Shark NHL website that I'm using is absolutely horrendous. So my picks are literally for tomorrow.
All right, well then I guess we'll start with me.
Why don't you go ahead and take the lead? That's garbage. I've literally been clicked on the Thursday tab for 2 hours, and it's showing me Friday's game. So why don't you take it away, Steele, and I'll be ready for tomorrow's bets. How we doing there?
We're going to get after we're back on track with Thursday's bets. Look, I'm looking at some puck lines. That's where I'm going all night Thursday. Some of these puck lines don't have the best of odds, not the juiciest out there, but I'm looking at them in a big way. Number 1, Rangers on the puck line against the San Jose Sharks at -148. Again, you're not getting a good odd for the puck line, but this needs to be a bounce back game for the Rangers. Absolutely embarrassed against the Winnipeg Jets, lose 6-3 in that matchup. They are 8-2-0 in their last 10 games against these Sharks. Funny enough, the puck line has only hit twice in those 8 wins. But again, this is a bounce back game for the Rangers, a team that's at home, and they're going up against one of the worst teams. Rangers on the puck line, -148. That's my first pick. Second pick of the night. This one a little bit better. Wild on the puck line at -106 against the Montreal Canadiens.
He's back.
They are 9-1-0 in their last 10 matchups. 6 of those 9 wins by 2 or more goals. I'm hitting the puck line in this parlay along with the Stars on the puck line against the Boston Bruins at +144. This one is more of a gut feeling right now against the Bruins at home again. All these picks, they're at home. The puck line, they're all puck line. I'm parlaying them together. And to me, it's really focusing on Jeremy Swayman, who just hasn't been himself this year.
That's true.
Below 900 save percentage.
He could have been on the list for today's episode, not to interrupt you, but
he could have been on the list. Below 900 save percentage, above 3.00 goals against average. He just hasn't been quite himself so far this year. And I'm liking the Stars puck line because of what we mentioned before. They're rolling all 3 lines. Matt Duchene, Tyler Seguin, they're chipping in right now. All 3 picks on the puck line, parlay them together.
Spicy. And thankfully, I'm a degenerate, and I'm looking at that Thursday night board anyway. Also, Odd Shark letting me down for one of the first times ever. I had Connor McDavid to have a big night the other night against the Islanders. He's chasing down 1,000 points. He had a popped off for a 4-point night. I had him 2+ points. In his career against the Nashville Predators, Mr. McDavid, in 23 regular season games, still 41 points for McDavid. So I got 2 picks because also, why not? The Nashville Predators in their last 10 against the Edmonton Oilers, only 2 victories. The Oilers are 8-1-1 in their last 10. So 2 picks for you. Smash them together. McJesus is going to have another big one. Edmonton gets another dub. Edmonton on the money line. And if I had to throw it a lock, even though it's a bit of a pseudo lock, because apparently I can't read dates anymore. Old age is really a bitch if you get me, Steele. The lock of the night is Connor McDavid, 2+ points again. Or if you want to cop out, since he has so many assists in his career against the Nashville Predators, 29 in 23 games, I'd go there. But lock of the night, McDavid, 2+ points. Let's get it.
Well, I'm happy you got 2 picks out there for
Thursday.
I'm looking forward for those picks on Friday night. Stay tuned for Flip's picks on Friday to start the weekend. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. For your second listen, you have to go check out the Locked On NHL podcast, where the season never ends, providing national expertise with a local perspective. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. From both Flip and I, we wish you good luck with your bets tonight, with your weekly matchups, and we shall see you back here again for Friday's episode.
Whatever day it is, peace.